I love this. We have continued with our series with Daniel, and where's Marley? Marley's over there. Marley gave me a great joke this morning, and so I could not help it, but I had to share this joke with you. So if you were here last week or you've been listening to the messages that are online, by the way, the messages are usually available, the audio or video version of these messages are available online on our website. You can go there if you've missed any of them because they're just, I don't know, great to put your kids to sleep with. But if you've missed any of those, you can kind of keep up with these messages. But he had a great joke I wanted to share with you this morning. How did Nebuchadnezzar, after his last dream? He was stumped. Marley. Oh my. Daniel chapter 5. Some of you are on, I don't get it. Go in 4. You'll know why. Daniel chapter 5 this morning. Title of the message is Written. Written. Daniel chapter 5. Title is Written. As we look at this, I want to give you a little bit of background as we go along here. King Nebuchadnezzar, one bad dude. But I think finally he got it last week. Realized that he was just a man. So much so that when God put him in his place, he realized that he just didn't have any control over even his own life. He thought he was the man. And finally, at the end of everything, he was nothing. And God reminded him that he was just a man, and God put him in a place where eventually he died. He died, just like any other man, woman. We die. Our life comes to an end. And God told Nebuchadnezzar, eventually, not only will you die, but your kingdom will come apart at the seams. And we find out that through history, over a short period of time, his kingdom begins to fall apart after his death. And there was a short time where there was a fight for power. We find that there was a short-lived success. Family members, brothers, very short period of time. And then as we look at chapter 5, and it begins with a new so-called king, we really don't know much about Belshazzar. This is the next guy in line, and what we know of as this king. And what we find out, some people really don't have much information. You look at the annals and you look at the history of Belshazzar, there's not much information because even his own reign is very short. We're very confused about his own lineage when it comes to how is it that he is connected with Nebuchadnezzar. We find out that there is a possibility, now really it's not clear of his relationship with Nebuchadnezzar. Some people believe that maybe Belshazzar is an adopted grandson of some kind. Maybe he is possibly a grandson once removed. We really don't know exactly who he is. Either way, we do know that Belshazzar's mother is the daughter, in some way or the other, the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. We have no idea which daughter she is and the connection there, but we know that she is the daughter. Matter of fact, we're going to see in just a moment that she remembers Daniel. She has some kind of connection with Daniel. So as we begin this process, we see where this all begins to come together. Now, as we look at chapter 5, it says, King Belshazzar. Now, you have to understand in history where we are at. At this point, the Medes have taken over the Babylonian Empire. Now, if you appreciate history like I do, you know that as God told Nebuchadnezzar, well, the Babylonian Empire has pretty much come under the authority of the Medes. And because of that, the Medes have allowed Belshazzar to have the city of Babylon. So he's really not a king over Babylon. He's more like a prince. He's told what to do. He's given kind of a, you do what I say, but you can have your authority over the great city, the great capital city of the former Babylonian Empire. And so he's saying, I am the authority of Babylon, the Babylon city. And so we find ourselves now in chapter 5 where it begins. Chapter 5 says, King Nebuchadnezzar held a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles and drank wine in their presence. Under the influence of the wine, Belshazzar gave orders to bring in the gold and silver vessels that his predecessor Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple of Jerusalem, so that the king and his nobles, wives, and concubines could drink from them. Now let's just think about what's going on here. If you remember Nebuchadnezzar over the past several years, or in this case for us, over the past few weeks, we were seeing how this massive kingdom that Nebuchadnezzar had, he had these incredible plans to conquer and destroy, and he brought back all these people from these regions, and he built up leadership over these areas and developed all these great leaders. Now look what has happened. In this city that Belshazzar has taken over, now it's only about 1,000 nobles. 1,000, leadership. Not really, overall, not really much anybody. And we find that now he's called all these folks together. And quite frankly, they were all getting about pretty much hammered. Let's just use it in our vernacular. They were getting stone cold drunk. And what was so bad about this particular party was that in this party, it was so horrible of a party that they allowed their wives and concubines to attend, which is actually very surprising. Because in the culture at that time, if they were going to have just a good get-together, a good party, a good conference, then the women were not allowed to attend. But this was a party. So all the women were allowed to come to this party. And you knew what was about to happen in this party. And so they were getting really toasted. Now here's the other part of that particular party. Belshazzar said, bring in all the sacred cups and bowls from the temple. If you remember, when Nebuchadnezzar came into Jerusalem, they destroyed the temple and took all the sacred stuff out of the temple. And part of that were these beautiful gold-plated, gold fashioned silver and gold cups and bowls and all these beautiful things that had been consecrated to God. And you think, oh, that's a horrible thing that has happened. Oh, how blasphemous is this? You know what? By then, it really doesn't matter. We think about it, oh, how could this pagan do that and drink to their gods, their little g's, their false gods? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at this point. It's not their fault. We can't condemn them for it because by this time they have already been considered unclean because the people of God turned away from God and allowed them to be made unclean because the people of God were now unclean. It has nothing to do with utensils. It has nothing to do with silverware. It has nothing to do with anything else except that they were cups and bowls. Not even in anything that was different than the thing that you have in your cupboards at home. But I think Belshazzar, in his own cockiness, was trying to make a point, but it really didn't matter. It didn't really matter to God because, quite frankly, God is bigger than a cup of bowl. And it goes on to say, so they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles, wives, and concubines drank from them. They drank the wine and praised their God made of gold and silver and bronze, iron, wood, and stone. And then things started really began to happen. Look at verse. At that moment, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and began writing on the plaster of the king's palace, the palace wall next to the lampstand. And the king watched the hand that was writing. Okay, all right, this is no plaster up here. I want you to use your imagination. Ready to use your imagination. Remember in school they said, put your thinking caps on. Okay, yeah, Marley knows. I don't know what anybody else, some of these people are too old to remember that stuff, okay? But put your thinking caps on. All right, here we go. Thinking caps. Now, use your imagination. On the wall over here. All of a sudden, in the light of the lampstand, kind of like a lamp, this hand, not sure what size it was, if it was a huge hand, if it was a little hand, all of a sudden it starts writing these words. And I think it's hilarious what is said next. As the king watched the hand that was writing, his face turned pale, and the thoughts so terrified him that his hip joints shook and his knees knocked together. Okay, if you have a problem on a regular basis getting drunk at parties, this is guaranteed to get you sober quick. I mean, come on, let's think about it. It basically says that when a supernatural hand started writing words on a wall, all of a sudden he got sober quick. So much so that his knees started shaking, knocking together, his hips started quivering, and he sobered up. And probably everybody in that room started, in the best vernacular I can, freaked out. And so what did he do? The king called out to bring the mediums, the Chaldeans, and astrologers. He said to these wise men of Babylon, whoever reads the inscription and gives me an interpretation will be clothed in purple and a gold chain around his neck and have the third highest position in the kingdom. So all the king's wise men came in, but none could read the inscription or make known the interpretation to him. Then King Belshazzar became even more terrified. His face turned pale and his nose bewildered, because of the outcry of the king and his nobles. In other words, when things started getting confusing, can you imagine? Typical party at the palace, crazy stuff starts happening. They don't know what's going on. They see the whole idea of the party, the craziness of the party kind of got the queen's attention. She didn't want to go to the party. This is my son's party. They're usually pretty wild. I have no interest in the party. But the party changed, and she knew something was different. So she walks in to the party. And here's how it goes. Because of the outcry of the king and his nobles, the queen came into the banquet hall. May the king, however, she said, don't let your thoughts terrify you or your face be pale. There is a man in your who has the spirit of the holy gods in him. In the day of your predecessor, he was found to have insight, intelligence, and wisdom like the wisdom of the gods. Your predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar, appointed him chief of the diviners, mediums, Chaldeans, and astrologers. Your own predecessor, the king. And this because Daniel, the one the king named Belshazzar, was found to have an extraordinary spirit, knowledge and perception, and the ability to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve problems. Therefore, summon Daniel, and he will give the interpretation. It's almost like Daniel, after this incident with when Nebuchadnezzar passed away, he kind of went into in seclusion probably. He probably went into retirement. Good for him. He says, okay, I'm good. I don't have to worry about being in charge of anything. I can just go back and get out of the limelight. Verse 13, then Daniel was brought before the king. The king said to him, are you Daniel, one of the Judean exiles that my predecessor the king brought from Judah? Heard that you have the spirit of the gods in you, and that you have insight, intelligence, and extraordinary wisdom. Now the wise men and mediums were brought before me to read this inscription and make its interpretation known to me. But they could not give its interpretation. However, I have heard that about you, that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Therefore, if you can read this inscription, give me its insight, interpretation, you will be clothed in purple, have a gold chain around your neck, and have the third highest position in the kingdom. Okay, could you imagine this? Daniel's going, here we go again. That's my interpretation of Daniel's situation. Okay, whatever you say. So he goes before the king, and his response, in verse 17. Then Daniel answered the king, his response, you may give your reward. However, interpretation known to him, your majesty. To him. And think about this for a second. What is Daniel saying? Daniel is simply saying, I've been in retirement. Keep your stuff. I don't want the job. I liked retirement. I don't want to come out of retirement. I know what you want. Keep your stuff. Give it to somebody else. I'm good. Now, God had other plans for Daniel, but it's incredible how that worked out. We go on. But he said, I'll give you your interpretation. I'll give you what God has said. Let me do that for you. Verse 18, your majesty, the most high God, gave sovereignty, greatness, glory, and majesty to your predecessor Nebuchadnezzar. Because of the greatness, he gave him all people, nations, and killed anyone he wanted and kept alive anyone he wanted. He exalted anyone he wanted and humbled anyone he wanted. But when his heart was exalted and his spirit became arrogant, he was deposed from his royal throne, and his glory was taken from him. He was driven away from people. His mind was like an animal's. He lived with the wild donkeys, and he was fed grass like cattle. And his body was drenched with dew from the till he acknowledged that the Most High God is ruler over the kingdom of men and sets anyone he wants over it. And then he changes his interpretation and points directly at Belshazzar. He says, but you, his successor, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, even though you knew all this. In other words, you've heard all this information. Your mama has told you this information. This is no surprise. You've heard the annuals. You've heard all the history of Nebuchadnezzar. There's no surprise here. It's not a confusion. So here it is. Verse 23, instead you have exalted yourself against the Lord of heaven. The vessels from his house were brought to you and your nobles, wives, concubines drank from them. You praised the gods made of silver and gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or understand, but you have not glorified the God who holds your life breath in his hand and who controls the whole course of your life. Therefore, he sent the hand of this writing and was inscribed. Verse 25, here he goes with the inscription. This is the writing that was inscribed on the wall. Here are the words. Now listen to these words. This is the most terrifying part about everything else. Mene, mene, tekel, parsin. Now, you and I, whatever. It doesn't mean a thing. But listen to this. He goes on and explains what this means. This is the interpretation message. Mene means that God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Things are about to end for the final part of the kingdom, the very last part of the Babylonian kingdom. Verse 27, Tekal means that you have been weighed in the balance and found deficient. You cannot measure up, is what he's telling them. And Perez or Parson means that your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians, otherwise known as the Medo-Persian Empire. And he goes on, then Belshazzar gave an order. They clothed Daniel in purple, placed a gold chain around his neck, and issued a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, was killed, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom. 62. I didn't think about this until earlier. That's not all that important when it comes to the reign of, or the for short time in office. Number 3 in the court of Belshazzar. It lasted probably less than a day. Number 3, I'm sure if Darius came in as a Mede, I'm sure Darius didn't stick around too long. He's like, good, I get to go back to retirement. Let me ask you something. What is God writing on the wall for you? What is God writing on the wall for you? Are you searching for answers? Are there questions that you've been asking God? Are there things that you've been looking for from God and you just are looking? Sometimes we say, God, show us a sign, and we're looking for him to write on the wall. You know, give us something. I don't know about you. I don't want him to write on the wall for me. I don't think my heart could handle it. You think about it. I don't want to see a sign. That would really, again, freak me out. My knees probably start knocking together and my hips start quivering and all that. What are you searching for? All right, are you ready? Get your electronic devices out or your Bibles ready, and let's go through some verses real quick. First of all, he does give answers. Jeremiah chapter 33. Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3. Are you searching for answers? God tells Jeremiah to give this message. He says, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and wondrous things you do not know." Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and wondrous things you do not know. The writing on the wall for you is are you searching for comfort? He gives comfort. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. God gives comfort. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will hold on to you with my righteous right hand. Are you searching for peace? John chapter 6. Chapter 16, verse 33. See, I'm faster than you because I have tabs. I cheat. John chapter 16, verse 33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. You will have suffering in this world, but be courageous. I have overcome the world. You're searching for hope. So this is my wife, or at least one of them. There's hope. He gives hope. For I know the plans I have for you. This is the Lord's declaration. Plans for your welfare, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. You will call to me, come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. And finally, are you searching for love? There's no greater love verse than this one. John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. No greater love than this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. What are you searching for? You know, the neat thing is sometimes we don't need to look for writing on the wall. We've already found the writing here. We don't need to look for these signs. We don't need to look for great big things to happen, even though it's great to find them because God's making big things happen all the time. But sometimes we just need to find the writing right here that he's provided us. God gave a warning to Belshazzar. But what is he telling you? Just as he's telling everyone through his word, he's saying, I can give you answers, you come to me. I can give you comfort, just come to me. I can give you peace, just come to me. I can give you hope, just come to me. And most importantly, I can give you love. You just need to come to me. Are you going to him? What are you doing to go to him? He has invited you to come to him. Are you willing to do that right now? There are two ways, two situations where you can come to him. One way is the fact that you've never come to him before. Never given up your life to come to him. Never decided, I am going to come to God for the very first time and let him be God to me. And it's a very simple thing. God forgives. He always forgives. And just say, God, I know I'm a sinner, because guess what? We all are. But I'm a sinner, and I ask you to forgive me of my sins. And because he loves us so much, he sent his son to die on the cross for us. And because of that, I know that he has given us the opportunity to go to God. And because of that, I ask God to forgive me, and I accept Jesus Christ to come into my life. And he makes us a new creation. And so I encourage you to do that right now. The second thing is, you're here and you've done that before, but right now you're searching. You're searching for comfort. You're searching for hope. You're searching for love. You're searching for answers. And right now, it seems like those answers aren't coming. And I encourage you right now just to find that by going to God. Maybe you just need to go to his word, or maybe it's just the fact that you just need to stop. Take away that all the other stuff that's getting in the way and just come to him in prayer and say, I know that it's not something I can do, but I know, God, that you can do it. I know that you can show us. I know that you can tell us what to do. Right now, God, I ask you to give me the peace, the love, the hope, the comfort, the direction. I just need to come to you. Help me to surrender that to you.